This leads me to the core of my theory. The island is a modern-day Shangri-La, and in their own twisted way, the others, led by Ben, we're the good guys, Linus, is trying to protect the island from the ravages of the outside world, and from, as they believe, the inevitable doom of mankind foreseen by the Valenzetti equation and attempted to be prevented by the Dharma initiative. These ravages of the outside world come because of the looming destruction of mankind,
whether through nuclear fire, chemical and biological warfare, conventional warfare, pandemic, overpopulation,
and from those with the knowledge of the valuable properties of the island and the power, resources, and willingness to do anything to gain control of the island. This will most likely come by means of a full-scale invasion of the island and the total annihilation of anyone living on the island at the time of the invasion. It can also come in the form of government, corporate, or individual greed and desire for control of the island for mining or exploiting of its unique properties and potentially resources with a financial value. Enter Charles Widmore and possibly Alvar Hanso, though on the surface Alvar Hanso's intentions seem altruistic. Now in the realm of Shangri-La, the return to the world of Lost Horizon, Shangri-La has the potential for being invaded by Chinese General Zhang, who has learned of the wonders of Shangri-La and wants them for himself. The hero Hugh Conway must prevent that from happening, much the way Locke and Jack, I believe, will do the same on the island in Lost. Now I would like to get into the core of the argument for an end-of-the-world, or near-end-of-the-world, conclusion in the finale of Lost, which is how I believe the show should and most likely will end. In the Sri Lanka orientation film, or the Hanso Exposed film, available online, Alvar Hanso himself explains that after the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, when the world almost entered a nuclear war, the United Nations Security Council commissioned a scientific study to determine if mankind will extinguish itself, and if so, when. The result of that study was the Valenzetti equation, which predicted the exact number of years and months until the end of mankind, whether through war, famine, disease, overpopulation, etc. Valenzetti generated 6 core numerical values from the equation, which are now the infamous lost numbers.
4, 8, 15, 16, 23, and 42.
It was the mission of Dharma initiative to find a way through science to change just one of those numbers and thereby save mankind. In a much simpler but eerily similar way in both the novel and film Lost Horizon, the High Lama and Hugh Conway speak at length about the nature of man and that due to mankind's tendencies toward war and destruction, the world civilizations will eventually collapse and destroy themselves. It is at this time when the occupants of Shangri-La will emerge with their respectful, peaceful ways, and the Christian edict, "The meek shall inherit the earth," shall become a reality. My belief is that the plan Carlton, Damon, and JJ have for the direction and outcome Lost is headed toward is related directly to either the destruction of the world outside of the island, i.e. mankind, or the near destruction of the world but tenuous continued survival of man. Ultimately, the solution to all of mankind's ill can be found in the mysteries of the island, aka New Shangri-La. Alvar Hanso seemingly believed that by sending the Dharma initiative to the island, they'll unlock those mysteries and will save mankind from self-destruction. Contradictory to that, the others, including Ben, believe that the world is inevitably doomed and they must find a way to preserve themselves and the remnants of mankind on the island, just as the inhabitants of Shangri-La collected books, art, and other great knowledge of the world to be preserved in Shangri-La along with its people for after the destruction of the world. That is the reason the others are so desperately trying to find a way to procreate on the island. However, unlike the peaceful world of Shangri-La in Lost Horizon, the others on Lost are willing to resort to violence and whatever means necessary to accomplish their goals. In the end, they may well have created a bizarro Shangri-La. In summary, the novel and the film Lost Horizon present themes that are similar to themselves and to those found in Lost. The main implied theme is whether mankind has the will and can find a way to overcome its own destruction and be reborn into a sustainable form, or whether it is doomed to inevitable demise. As characters in both the world of Lost and Lost Horizon believe. In either case, I believe we will see many, if not all, of the characters of Lost that do leave the island, i.e. the Oceanic Six, return to the island for good before the end of the series, especially Jack Shephard. I also predict a new leader will arise for those on the island, much the way Hugh Conway in the book and the movies was destined to be that leader. I believe the leader on Lost to be Jack Shephard, and possibly, to some degree, if not equally, John Locke. And that Jacob, acting in the role of High Lama from Lost Horizon, has selected Jack to be the shepherd of the people, and that much like Conway, Jack had to leave the island of Shangri-La before realizing he was never meant to and must return. I know my theory doesn't go to explain all the mysteries of Lost, like the smoke monster, etc. I also know it doesn't make a connection between each and every character in Lost and Lost Horizon books. To that I say it is not meant to. How could it? You have three rather short books with limited characters, one 2-hour movie with just as little characters that represent the world of Lost Horizon, and very little time for extensive detail. And then you have a 120 episode, or plus episode, epic 6-year run television series that is its own world with its own mythos. Besides, we have 2.5 seasons of the show to find out what the hell the smoke monster is. I just want my theory to speak to the main theme and most likely conclusion of the series, as well as many of the details on the show, just not all of them. That's what makes the world of Lost unique from Lost Horizon. That's what makes it its own universe. Now, for those of you who are still wondering about the name of the Dharma station I'm currently in, the Blue Moon, I will now explain it. The Blue Moon is a reference to the name of the valley that lies 2,000 feet below the temple of Shangri-La in Lost Horizon, the Valley of the Blue Moon. So there you have it. With that said, I will leave you with these final thoughts and suggestions. I truly recommend you rewatch and pay close attention to the flash forward in the final episode of Lost Season 3. Take a good look at the bearded, crazed, and obsessed man that Jack Shephard has become when he is standing with Kate at the end of that runway and telling her how they made a mistake, how they were not supposed to leave the island, and that they must go back. Listen to how desperately he has tried multiple times to get to the island by flying planes and constantly hoping they will crash. Then go watch the movie Lost Horizon, especially the very, very end. Take a good look at the bearded face of Hugh Conway and listen to his colleagues explain the bizarre actions Conway took in his desperate multiple attempts to return to Shangri-La. Then tell me that the similarity is not uncanny between the themes and also scenes from Lost Horizon and the show Lost. I say it is very appropriate that Carlton, Damon, and JJ placed that scene in the very middle of the series as they have. In my mind, that is the most pivotal moment in Lost so far, and I believe it answers a lot more questions than it appears on the surface. More importantly to my theory, I believe it is the strongest piece of evidence I have presented to the connection between Lost and Lost Horizon. I suppose I will have to wait until May 2010 to be fully vindicated in my predictions, but I imagine along the way, the Lost Boys, as I will now call them, will throw a few more pieces of evidence to the audience in a way only Lost can. I thank you for your time, and I bid you farewell. Namaste.